so we have the transmission out of the car. Now I have the new converter on the floor, and so here's how the transmission looks on the inside. It's nothing really special, so what we're gonna do, I poured a little bit of fluid in here. We will put this converter in and just pretty much jack it back up and start bolting everything together. Hey, what's going on, guys? Donovan here. It's been quite a while since I last uploaded. I think at least 2 months. And with that being said, in today's video, and by we I mean my dad, my grandpa, my friend Gabe, pretty much all the crew that helped me do the cam install on the Charger, we're going to be installing that 3400 stall Circle D torque converter in the Charger RT. I want to collect all the tools that we're gonna need. I'm gonna pull the Charger out and start gathering up all the tools. My buddy Alex's shop, he lets us use lifts every once in a while, and so this is one of those jobs where I felt like a lift would make life easier so that we're not wrestling with a transmission on the floor of the garage. So let's get a cold start. Beautiful. Let's get a little bit of idle before I shut her back off. Yes, sir. So I also bought trans fluid just in case we lose it. I also bought this so that it would make it a little easier if we needed to, well, when we need to refill the transmission a little bit, because I'm sure we'll lose a little fluid. In the 8 HP 70s, I don't think you're allowed to use the regular like Mopar ATF4. So I picked up the 8 and 9 speed ATF. And so I picked up 4 quarts. I'm not sure if that's how much we need. We might even need more. Hopefully we don't need more than 4 quarts, but bringing that just in case. Also, one thing that I just never installed in the car was this transmission cooler thermostat bypass thingy from Revmax. These higher stall torque converters, they often generate more heat, and so this will help me keep my transmission temps lower. I really should have had this in the car already. I just never put it in. I hear it's an incredibly simple install. I'm just, you know, I'm me, and I've even had this torque converter for like months, and I just have never gotten to installing it. So I was also taking a look at Modern Red Hemi's videos recently. He did a HP 70 to HP 90 swap. They went through the process of removing the HP 70, and it didn't look like terribly involved. At least we can hopefully figure this out. Hopefully, assuming we have all the right tools and stuff. So I also want to note that earlier in the video I said I bought a 3400 stall converter from Circle D. From my understanding of how these other torque converters work that stall at different speeds, there's not really a set value that they stall at. It can be plus or minus a few hundred RPM even in some cases, depending on like factors like the weight of the vehicle, the gearing that you have. Just because he said it was a 3400 stall, I believe with the setup that I have on the car right now, it should stall a little bit lower than that, which I'm personally okay with. We'll get all the tuning worked out. I've already talked to ZH Tunes, who tuned this car, and he kind of just gave me the thumbs up, so he's ready to data log this more a little, or the new converter once it's in with me. Anyways, I'm gonna get all the tools together, at least what I think I'll need. I'll see you guys at Alex's shop. So Grandpa's been he's been doing all the work for me with let's see, what are you bolting on right now?
I'm taking off the coolant.
So Grandpa's been working on that. Really, so far, I mean, the most difficult part so far, we're not done. We basically disconnected the drive shaft so that we could remove it from the transmission here, which that's kind of the annoying part, because some of them are in weird spots. But then it's just like unplugging the wiring harness from the transmission.
And Chris busted one of the clips.
Well, okay, so there are a bunch of those like Christmas tree clips in here, which are just incredibly annoying to deal with. It's pretty much just removing those clips, removing these like cooler lines, disconnecting the O2 sensors. We pulled off the mid pipes as well. So now we're getting ready to pull off the inspection plate and begin unbolting. Yeah, begin unbolting the torque converter bolts from the flywheel. We removed the plastic service shield and stuff because instead of putting like a pry bar in the flywheel to give us leverage to unbolt things, that's for the starter. So do you see the other bolt? Yeah, down there. So I have instead of like putting a pry bar in the teeth of the flywheel to rotate the engine, I have a breaker bar with like a shallow socket that fits perfectly on the crank if you just rotate it here. Actually, I got it on the first try there, so somehow. And then it's pretty much just unbolting the trans from the engine block, as well as this cross member. And then we can bring it down with the transmission jack, which is over there. Okay, so we have the transmission out of the car. There were a couple bolts that were kind of like hidden at the top that were a little bit annoying to get to. You can see there's a bunch here. Some of the bolts come through on this side. Like for example, this one was behind the starter. And these things are annoying because there's like this black plate up there, and there's Gabe. There's like this black plate up there that we have to screw into, and it was just kind of a pain. So now I have the new converter on the floor, and so here's how the transmission looks on the inside. It's nothing really special. So what we're gonna do, I poured a little bit of fluid in here. I'm waiting for it to bubble down, and then we will put this converter in and just pretty much jack it back up and start bolting everything together. Oh, and also I put the bypass thing on these lines. I just pulled them out because they were kind of in the way. So get this bolted back in as well.
How you doing, Gabe?
Yesterday, or 2 days ago actually, we got the converter installed on the RT. I didn't film the entire install, mostly because I didn't want it to be a tutorial video, because we are not professionals and it was literally my first time doing it to the car. I don't want to give people like the incorrect information and, you know, mess up somebody else's car because they followed my bad advice. Yeah, and I mean, speaking of mistakes, we actually had to install the transmission twice. So when we first put the torque converter in and bolted the transmission back up, we were spinning the engine with a breaker bar on the crankshaft bolt, and the engine started binding, like it stopped turning. And so thankfully we caught it before we started the engine up like normal. We ended up having to pull the trans out a second time, seating the converter in better. That was a pain, by the way. We finally got it in. The second time we bolted the trans back up, it took us like all of like 15 minutes and then an extra 10 minutes to bolt in all the drive shaft bolts, and that thing was probably back in less than a half an hour. Got the trans filled, and it isn't tuned. I was able to drive it home untuned, which I was kind of surprised about. So the car is tuned by ZH Tunes, which you guys know, and so I've been in contact with them about getting a revision on the trans tune. That'll actually be the next video. Actually, right now, after I film this, I'm gonna go ahead and take the stock tires off, or not the stock tires, take my street tires off rather, put on the drag radials so that I could drive it around and try to get it to stall up, test out the launches so I could get Z some data logs and get it all dialed in. But yeah, I was able to drive it home without changing the trans tune, which is what ZH told me. So I'll give you guys the first impressions of it, as well as some of the videos of me data logging it, because I need the stickier tires on, and then we'll go from there. With that being said, this was a major piece that I needed before I took the car back to the 8th mile drag strip in Irwindale. So I'm excited that it's in. I'm excited to get it tuned. Hopefully everything works out properly, getting this kind of tuned in a timely fashion. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. I look forward to making videos on the tuning process of this, as well as the really the drivability of the torque converter, because you hear horror stories about them being kind of annoying to drive around town because it feels really loose. I'll talk about that in another video. With that being said, if you guys are interested in following along, please remember to click that subscribe button. Drop a like on the video. It really helps me navigate around the YouTube algorithm, and helps me find new viewers who may be interested in the car and the channel. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.